Hello, everyone. Welcome to BiogasWorld's USA Focus Month webinar discussing the biogas and RNG market in the US throughout 2025 and beyond. As a reminder, this webinar is being recorded and will be shared with participants following the webinar. In addition, if you have any questions for our presenters, we invite you to write them in the Q&A tab, and we'll ask our panelists during the Q&A period. BiogasWorld hosts new country focus months throughout the year to discuss the opportunities and challenges within various markets. Be sure to join our biogas community website for the latest updates and to network with companies in the biogas and RNG industry. I would like to thank our presenters for joining us today. Prabhu Rao, Chief Executive Officer at ABB Adsorption, Scott McKay, Product Lead Anaerobic Digestion at Fournier Industries, Alain Leblanc, Vice President in Closed Powertrain Packaging at ABB Group, and John Dinneen, Waste to Energy Market Leader at Mead Hunt. So I'll briefly just share a few words about BiogasWorld. Since 2016, BiogasWorld has supported the biogas and RNG sectors by offering industry visibility, market insights, and networking opportunities through its BiogasWorld and biogas community platforms. So I'll pass the floor over to Prabhu Rao. Prabhu is the CEO of Adsorption, Inc., a leading provider of gas purification solutions for biogas, hydrogen, and carbon capture industries. He is also a board member of IV's Energy that deploys clean mobility infrastructure globally. He believes that innovation solves problems and is focused on creating innovating solutions, all things related to climate technology. Prabhu, I'll pass it over to you.
So thanks, Ryan, for the kind introduction. So IV's Adsorption is a company that's is in operation about 3 years, but the team and the technology behind it has been around for a long time. It was actually we acquired, this is basically a group of investors, myself and Bridge, IV's Energy. We acquired the assets of a company called Zeebeck Adsorption, which I know a lot of the people know about the company Zeebeck. So we acquired that in late 2022, early 2023, and have been operating the company since then. In terms of the mission of the company itself, our focus is really on supplying, I guess, products in the gas purification and gas conditioning industry. And in terms of our clean tech business unit, there are 3 molecules that we really focus on a lot, with the CO2, hydrogen, and methane. So we have a whole type of number of products that deal with the conversion of the molecules between themselves and also conditioning of the molecules, whether it's purifying methane from biogas, or doing methanation, or doing purifying hydrogen coming from steam methane reformers. So a whole range of applications. And in terms of the technology itself, I would say the 2 core technology areas where we focus on is, one is dehydration, which is typically done through a temperature swing absorption process. The heritage of Zeebeck originally was doing a lot of work in air dryers. So from the 1960s is what it was been doing, air dryers for the compressed air industry. So there's a lot of stuff coming from there. And then we entered the area of CNG stations. So a number of stations around the United States and Canada have Zeebeck dryers. And I think there are probably like 2,000 dryers out there. And more recently, we've been doing work in the renewable natural gas drying business and also the hydrogen space, because now there's focus on green hydrogen through electrolysis, and the hydrogen that comes out of these electrolyzers needs a deoxo and a dryer. So we supply those, at least for the dryer part, we supply that. The other part of our technology is gas purification, and that's the technology that we use is pressure swing absorption. PSAs have been around for a long time, but what makes the IV's PSA unique is the combination of obviously good absorbent knowledge and good absorption technology, along with our very unique rotary valve technology that allows miniaturizing the PSA. Our PSAs are typically a third or definitely less than half the size of a conventional PSA. And just so that people are aware, that I was a customer of Zeebeck for a very long time in the hydrogen space, and then eventually when I acquired the company, obviously it was almost like coming home for me with this technology. So that's kind of the core technologies that we use. Very quickly in terms of the applications, we do a lot of work in obviously biogas, which is relevant to this webinar. but we have a lot of our PSA technology has been deployed in the hydrogen space. So gas purification through pyrolysis or gasification and steam methane reforming, chloralkali plants, methanol, ammonia, those type of applications. We do a lot of work in the helium markets. We supply PSAs for purifying helium from oil wells, and very limited activity in the oil and gas. We're not very big in the oil and gas. In the biogas space, people know Zeebeck for a long time. We've done one of the original projects in like 2009, 2010. We were doing biogas plants in the US. We have about close to 100 sites now globally. And we've done all different types of feedstocks. I guess the area where we are focused on over the last 4 or 5 years is really trying to reduce the cost structure of a biogas upgrading facility. So some of you may have seen this animation, but I'll just end with this. So we are trying to take upgrading and try to make it more like a product, because once you go through the digester and the purification, the cleanup step, it's really like the gas that comes out. There's not a lot of variability to that. So then now you're able to treat that as the upgrading part as a product, and we have tried to make upgrading as a modular solution. That's a product that can be manufactured in the factory and can be installed on the site in a few days or weeks, rather than months and months that we have seen in the past. Obviously, that's a big benefit for the customer, the developer, because they save a lot of time and they save a lot of in the cost. So this BioStream is kind of the hallmark product that we are marketing today, and I'm happy to chat more, but this video goes for under 10 seconds or so. But Ryan, I'll stop at this stage and happy to continue the discussion.
Great, thank you. We'll move along with our introductions, and I'll pass it over to Scott McKay. Scott's the product lead for anaerobic digestion at Fournier Industries. Scott.
So just a few words on Fournier Industries. Fournier is a manufacturer of heavy-duty industrial equipment. So we've been around since 1960, which I guess was a good year, because that was also the year I was born. So Fournier has been, since all that time, has started mostly in the mining industry, but has transferred where Fournier is located in Thetford Mines. That used to be the center of the earth for asbestos mining. So of course, this is all behind us now. So Fournier has transitioned towards still in mining around in gold and ore mining equipment. And one of the technology that we have developed in this transition is the Fournier rotary press. Prabhu, that was talking earlier, was on the gas side. We're really on the solid side, so dealing with the digestate. And this equipment is a solid liquid separation technology that uses very little energy. It's mostly installed in wastewater plants, but we have recently deployed the technology in RNG plants around the world, mostly up to now in Canada, the US, and in Norway and Sweden. We more recently we're introducing a new anaerobic digester, an innovative anaerobic digester technology, which is called the HPD, High Performance Digester. So Fournier is the exclusive licensee for North America. If you look at the advantages of this technology compared to conventional technology, you will see rapidly that the retention time is 3 times shorter. So, that's because it's loaded with 3 times the organic load rate of a conventional digester, and also its efficiency provides more biogas. So it's 3 times the organic load rate, but 4 times the amount of biogas per volume and per unit of time. And it also uses much less energy for mixing, because the mixing essentially is not done mechanically, but it is done by recirculating some material using an impulse pump. So that's the technology. Since we're introducing this in North America, we had to look into really study the market. So BiogasWorld was very useful to us to do the market studies. So we think that the time is right, even though there may be some turbulence in the market, let's say. But the time is for anaerobic digestion, especially in wastewater plants where we have implemented our rotary presses. The context should be good to see more anaerobic digestion in the near future. So thank you for your attention.
Thanks, Scott. And then next we'll pass it over to Alain Leblanc. Alain is Vice President Enclosed Powertrain Packaging at ABB with 30 years experience in electrical systems. For the past 3.5 years, he's focused on the renewable natural gas sector, where he's passionate about advancing sustainable energy solutions. He's excited to share his insights with us today. Alain.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. So with, for those of you who don't know ABB, let me share, a couple of slides here. So the, ABB is founded about 140 years ago. We have about 110,000 employees globally. And then we operate in 110 countries. We have over 100 facilities worldwide. So very, our core competency is electrical, motion, and then what we call process automation. A fun fact for the ABB is that, if we look at it from the electrical consumption globally, 45% of it comes from electrical motors. And more than 75 are not connected to drives, which improves, efficiency. And 25%, our estimate is 25% of the power consumption can be reduced by adding a drive to a motor. What we're looking at also is to develop technologies to reach the target towards net zero on carbon emission, which, if we look at the renewable natural gas, is definitely a lower carbon footprint, but I think we can add technologies to all. We can have definitely the performance and reliability that the operation of the plants would like to achieve in order to maximize profitability. And then energy efficiency is a key topic, and I think we have a question on that later on how we can help reduce energy efficiency, which would improve return on the carbon credit. And then, just a last slide here, quickly, not all of this is applicable to renewable natural gas, market, but we can do application for fans, pumps, compressors, extruders, centrifuge, and any other application. ABB has a solution for it. And then, from a control perspective and also power distribution. that we can bring to the table here. So
Great, thank you. And then finally, we have John Dinneen. So John develops waste energy projects at Mead Hunt, specializing in biogas and RNG solutions. He guides projects from technical analysis to turnkey EPC delivery, optimizing production from diverse feedstocks. Passionate about renewable energy, John fosters partnerships that reduce waste and enhance environmental impact. John.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. So Mead Hunt, we're a engineering and construction company. We're headquartered in Wisconsin. We've got about 40 office locations throughout the country. We have around 1,400 employees, and we're entirely employee owned, which is kind of unique for a firm of our size. And this year we celebrated our 125th anniversary as a company. I'm part of our greenhouse gas reduction group, and what we focus on in the greenhouse gas reduction group is turnkey project delivery. So the EPC model, where we're responsible for entire projects from engineer through equipment procurement and then final construction. We're a technology agnostic EPC, so we don't have particular technologies that we sell or promote. We just look at what's out there in the market and what makes sense for a project. And then what we're really good at is integrating these various different technology pieces into kind of a holistic facility. We've been in biogas for quite a long time. So we started doing anaerobic digestion projects early on in the 1990s, mostly for food waste, like industrial food and beverage manufacturing. Early 2000s, we did our first project with municipal biogas, where that existing AD biogas was upgraded and sent to the city's fleet vehicles as CNG. We got into landfill gas as well in the early 2000s. And then 2010s, food waste digestion and dairy manure digestion were really big for us. And then we've continued to do all of those industrial food waste, municipal, landfill projects, and got into post-consumer waste as well. Personally, I'm mostly involved in anaerobic digestion projects. So I think most of my answers as we're kind of talking through this presentation will be more from the AD perspective, but we do have a wealth of experience in landfill as well as a company. So that's a little bit about who we are.
Great, thanks, John. Thanks everybody for your introductions. So starting off our discussion today, maybe we'll get a perspective from each of the panelists on what the view they have on the US market. Are there any particular projects that they're seeing a increase in compared to others? So why don't we do the reverse order of our presentation? So we'll start with John.
Okay, yeah, sure. I guess in terms of where we see the US market is, I would say we just finished a real booming time that was in large part driven by that Inflation Reduction Act. And so now we've entered into a period of time where there are certainly still quite a few federal incentives out there, but we're in a world of a bit more uncertainty while some of the exact details of those incentives are worked out. We see a lot of developers needing to recalibrate their financial models. The world where 30-40% of your CapEx is immediately offset, that's probably behind us. And then figuring out how to recalibrate in a way that incorporates these new incentives, I think is a big part of where the market is at right now. I guess we still see lots of good projects out there and lots of interest in new project development from qualified developers. So I guess we remain optimistic about the short and long-term future. And then as far as the types of projects, it's almost full circle in that industrial food waste is really big right now. Landfills have been really important over the past year. And then I think poultry manure or poultry litter is the other one that is kind of the new frontier that we're seeing a lot of interest in.
Well, thanks. Alain?
yeah, I'll second what John said. We definitely saw a significant boom in the 22, 23, 24 period. I think there's a lot of uncertainty around the policies from the current administration, not just on, the IRA, but also tariffs, permitting, new direction from the FERC requirement, EPA, which I think everyone is still trying to figure out how to work out permitting, which is a major stumbling block on some of the larger projects. So, and then, for me also is, I think that as the overall market mature, with some of the new trending requirement from the market outside of RNG, which we'll talk later. I think there's interesting dynamic that's happening. I think 25 will be more like John was stating earlier, how the market settle, how they redefine itself, and we'll see some definitely a market growth for the next years to come.
Hey, thanks, Scott.
Yes. Well, especially in the wastewater industry, what we're seeing is that well, all the attention seems to be on one issue right now, and it's a four-letter word, PFAS. So it seems like that's the only thing we're hearing in conferences, and both the consultants and the end users are concerned, and there's a lot of it brings a lot of uncertainty. But on the other hand, I see an opportunity for the anaerobic digestion industry because, well, with AD, you reduce quite dramatically the quantity of biosolids that then so the PFAS is more concentrated and is in a smaller quantity of material then to be treated and to destroy the PFAS. And also the AD is generating energy. It's generating biogas that can be used in the drying process because if most of the destruction technologies are around pyrolysis, gasification, and that requires a product that is dry at least at 85% dryness, and biosolids typically are anywhere between 15 and maybe 30% dryness. So there's necessarily a drying step. So you can use that biogas can be used at that drying step. I got a schematic here that I wanted to share. So this is the pyrolysis gasification system. So it's a schematic. So you see that the biosolids need to be dried first, this first step, then goes into a kiln, and then there's also other sorts. So there's a lot of energy used first at the drying, and then obviously the gasification and thermal oxidation stages. Gasification, the word says it, generates syngas that can be used for this process, and there may be a surplus for drying. But obviously, if you generate biogas, well, that is another source of energy for the dryer, in addition to reducing by 50% the volume of material that contains that PFAS. So this may be an opportunity that we should grasp. And I know that that's the way I've been able to attract the attention of consultants, because obviously if you're not addressing PFAS, you're not in the main conversation as far as biosolids are concerned, but that will also be the case for food waste. And in some cases, food waste can even contain more PFAS than biosolids.
Great, thank you. And Prabhu, what is your view on the market right now?
I think the people have covered it quite well. I felt like the first half, late 2024 and the first part of 2025, there was a lot of uncertainty about how the big beautiful bill would handle the IRA part of things, right? So I think everybody was kind of frozen to figure out is the incentives still going to be there or not. And I think while there's still some uncertainty in the final ruling, I think the biogas industry came out reasonably well out of that transition. And so the second half of 2025, what we are seeing in Q3 and Q4, I think people are beginning to go back to projects. But the other challenge that has come is more on not on the capex side of things, but more on the offtake side of things, right? So the LCFS and wind pricing and the lack of a demand, the offtake demand was not as high as it was a few years ago. So that's affecting the economics of a lot of the projects. So developers are now looking at projects where you don't need to install a digester, right? So where does that take you? It takes you back to landfills. It takes you back to wastewater treatment facility. And it takes you back to maybe improving the existing projects that they're working on. And if the recoveries are very poor, then they're trying to improve those. So I see a lot of activity in that space. And the last one I'll mention where I see 2025, there's an uptick in activity, is how do you use the biogenic CO2 at your sites, right? A lot of people are thinking about, okay, I'm making CO2. Is there a demand for the biogenic CO2? And how can I sell that to make my economics even better? So I think those are the areas that we see traction. I would say we'll talk a little bit more about other applications of RNG. Ryan, I know you have some questions surrounding that, but I do see some positive opportunities coming up in the next few years.
Interesting, thank you. So we'll move into our first question. So there's a rapidly expanding demand for new supplies of energy for powering data centers across the US. So what might the appetite be for the biogas industry for supplying this energy and sort of facilitating this hyperscaling of these facilities? So Alain, I'll start off with you.
Yeah, there's definitely an appetite. We're definitely involved in different aspect of a data center, from powering the data center, which we're looking at 500 megawatt requirement right now per the data center. There's cooling requirement. There's grid stability for power for data centers. On the electrical aspect of things, where I see RNG be a portion of that solution is supplying the gas to power localized power generation, either through a gas compressor with a generator or the typical boiler. Again, there's all kinds of new technology emerging on that, but definitely, I think biogas can have a key role going forward in those remote locations where they want to build the data centers.
Great, thanks. Would anybody else like to jump in on that question?
I think the only other application I would say is that the demand for power requirement is so high in the data centers and the hyperscalers that the big challenge there is now on the supply chain side for power generation, like gas turbines and things like that. So the other area where we see other technology that is coming into play is solid oxide fuel cells. So there are some companies that are commercial with that technology. So they are also getting involved. And SOFCs can operate with methane, right? So Even though you may not use 100% RNG, if you can blend it, so you can reduce the carbon intensity of the fuel that you're using in the solid oxide fuel cell. I think there's an opportunity for the RNG industry to get involved in those type of activities, because most of these hyperscalers are, in spite of the power demands that they have, they're looking for environmentally, I guess, more benign ways of generating the power.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to another question here. So there are many factors that are currently influencing the logistical networks for developing facilities, getting equipment where it needs to go. How are these affecting lead times for major equipment in biogas projects? John, I'll start it with you.
Yeah, well, I mean, so what we see working with a bunch of different technology suppliers is that lead times have gone down. I'm actually more curious. We've got a bunch of technology suppliers on this call. I mean, I'd bounce it over to them. I mean, what are you all seeing?
I agree with you, John, in the sense that, during COVID, it was an issue, right? There was a kind of a freeze up of supply chain. And then there was obviously the big demand, and there were some challenges with that. But I think 2025 has definitely been a better year that way. And I also feel like a lot of the technology providers have become better at building their product. Right? You've done it a few times. You're building modular solutions. You're building standardized solutions. So you're just becoming more efficient and more productive in actually putting these things together. So the industry has gone through a very steep learning curve over the last 5-7 years, I would say, and things have become better. Is my gut feel.
I think, like, coming into this year, I had a concern that a bunch of project developers placed orders to safe harbor equipment at the end of 2024, and there was a real concern that 2025 these lead times would lengthen out even further, just because of the flood of orders. But yeah, my experience is basically echoing what you just said, is that I think there were good forecasting and then applying other lessons that had been learned during supply chain crunches not so long ago, that I guess from our perspective, a lot of like the key major equipment for biogas projects has not been the holdup. It's been more like electrical components and those types of things.
Yeah, and I can pitch in a little bit since I'm electrical on that side. Definitely we saw the steep curve during the back end of COVID, where the requirement for electrical equipment supply ramped up drastically, like a hockey stick effect, using a Canadian term here. But a lot of OEMs like ABB invested a lot in capacity. I think that's what we're starting to see in some of it. That you're starting to see lead time comes down because of by the time you put the project to build more capacity, it takes a while, and I think we start to see the lead time come down, but there's still key electrical component like transformers, where we're not manufacturing, but there's a limited supply availability, and if you do anything electrical, you need a transformer somewhere. So that, I think that's a challenge that the supply chain needs to figure out. We know we're looking into it definitely as a company. We're using lots of them. As far as the majority of our equipment, all the issues that we had during COVID tamed down. There's still ups and downs, but I would say lead time came back to a little bit more realistic values.
Yeah,
I think also, Alain, the quick note there is that I also feel like there was a period of time where some of the technology providers, at least in the upgrading and the gas purification side, where the companies outside of the US, so they were shipping stuff from outside. But I think over the last few years, they've kind of set up their own shops in the US and kind of manufacturing or contract manufacturing or inventory. So that's also helped, I think, alleviate some of these supply chain issues.
Correct. ABB invested in New Berlin, $110 million on the new facility. We're investing in Tennessee, another 120, which was basically continuation of another facility that we built prior to that, by the time we finished it, we had to increase capacity. So just to keep up with demand. So, yep. No, I agree. That's a valid comment, Prabhu.
Yeah, I'd say, yeah, at Fournier, our lead times have also came back to pretty much to normal. One of actually that COVID, what it had maybe as a positive impact afterwards is that we have diversified our supply chain. So the procurement, our people at procurement had to be very, very creative, and we also had to educate our customers to maybe different products that they weren't necessarily used to, and that so alternate products that have been introduced. I'm thinking especially on the electrical, since that was so difficult. Most of our customers were used to pretty much all the same supplier, so we had to diversify that, and at this point in time, that's still useful. One thing that is challenging and that maybe is more related to projects that are at least partially financed by the U.S. federal government is the BABA requirement. So Build America, Buy American, Build America Act. That was passed under the Biden administration, but of course is continuing now. And a lot of the American suppliers see a challenge because in the past the procurement was done on with the idea of free trade around the world. So now they have to secure the BABA requires 55% of the value of components being domestic U.S. So for different, especially on the electrical side, I think that is still challenging, and there's for federally funded projects, it can still be challenging to get the procurement domestically.
Thanks, Scott, and thanks everyone for jumping in. Anybody want to continue with that? Prabhu?
No, I think it's good. I'm interested to really talk more about the IMO and SAF stuff, but I think that's a potentially a good opportunity for us.
Absolutely. So speaking of, based on the current downward trends that we're seeing in the RAN and LCFS prices, so projects that were once relying on these markets for financial viability are starting to struggle a little. So what do you see as the path forward for biogas and RNG? So do you think there will be an increase in demand for low capex projects, for example, landfills, or could we see new potential offtake markets start to emerge, like bio LNG or SAF in the maritime or in the maritime sector? And like, do you think these will increase or maintain the demand for new projects? And Prabhu, we'll start with you.
Yeah. So we've obviously been involved in with our hydrogen activity. We've been involved in a number of projects related to SAF and others through the gasification pathway. So we have been exposed to this for a few years now. What I think is I would say maybe a silver lining for us is if there are two parts to it. Is if the IMO regulations that are supposed to be decided next week in London, if they show a pathway for using bio LNG, as a credible or a viable pathway for having more environmentally friendly fuels in the maritime sector, that would be a huge plus for the industry, because now you're not dependent on the transport pathway for your offtake. So you can start working with the maritime industry for that. So there's a lot riding there, right? Then the second pathway there is if it is not bio-LNG, but if you can use RNG as a feedstock into making methanol, right? So if that pathway is ratified, then again there's a good demand for it, because the price point I think for the RNG for making methanol is currently more attractive than the RNG that we're using now for the transport. And the last one is I think there's some conversation about making e-methane. So the question becomes is how do you make that, and the biogenic CO2 is another thing, right? So hydrogen plus biogenic CO2 to make methane or methanol. So that also provides a little bit of a new offtake for CO2 for the RNG project. So I think the meetings next week have a significant impact on our industry, and I'm hoping that'll come out in the right way for us. Then there's the SAF pathway. There's another pathway which a lot of RNGs, again, I think there are developers looking to do book and claim. So basically buy RNG from various projects and then installing centralized SAF facilities, larger facilities. So that's an area where we're involved with a couple of developers. So I see those two being attractive, and specifically not particularly for the US, but at least I know for the Canadian markets, in Quebec especially, there is a pathway for e-methane as a renewable fuel. So that's another opportunity where there's a possibility of selling RNG into the Quebec market. So I'm optimistic about these things, even though the RIN prices are low and LCFS is low. But I think there's probably a brighter future for us depending on the meetings next week.
Yeah, I'm largely in agreement with everything you said there. I guess the main way that I have to gauge, how close are some of these future fuels, alternative transportation fuels to becoming real in terms of like significant project development, is how many inquiries we're getting about them. I guess SAF, it's little to none at this point, but the methanol maritime sector, I think that's the one that I would say if we're just gauging based on the activity we get with inquiries, I think maritime fuel is the one that we're seeing get the most traction, or the one that I would say I think we're going to see the most activity in the next couple of years.
Yeah, and I think to add that is all the clean fuel policies that are being issued or discussed, which will be lagging. I don't think it's going to be an immediate impact, but there's 5 states right now that are in discussion. California, probably the more advanced. Was reading an article in New Mexico that looking at is RNG a value, being part of it. So there's advocacy against and for. So I think that we'll see where also that one comes in, which could have a impact on transportation, land transportation, alternative fuel. So I agree. I concur with John and Prabhu here that we'll see. There's hope for an uptick here within the next couple of years.
Arsuda.
Thank you. So we've talked a bit about the alternative markets, the biogas and RNG, and a little bit about CO2 as well. But maybe to change tack to another product, the Digestate side, how do you see the fertilizer market developing for Digestate? Is there market recognition emerging for the value of the nitrogen that's in the liquid Digestate? And then do you think this market might be more emerge more in the short, medium, or longer term? So Scott, I'll start with you.
Yes, thank you. Well, something we've seen a lot, and it started in Europe, but I think it's getting to North America now, is the effort to recoup fertilizers or nutrients in both, yes, the solid fraction of the digestate, but also the liquid fraction. So we have customers in, there's a customer in Sweden where the liquid, so the digestate, once it's dewatered, you separate the solid and the liquid. The liquid is used in farms for what they call fertigation. So fertilizing and irrigation at the same time. So they're reusing this water. Excuse me. Of course, that means that water needs to be clean enough so you can reuse it and recuperate the nutrients in it. Other technologies are using evaporators. So in those cases also, it's very important to have a clean digestate because the solids in that liquid will reduce the efficiency of the evaporator. So as that, of course, we understand in the biogas sector, most of the focus is put on the gas itself, but I think we should also give attention to the quality of the byproducts and make sure that both the solid and the liquid are valued, and that needs to be taken in account when you're designing the facility, because it's difficult afterwards to add and adapt the byproduct to the needs of the customer. So that should be taken in account ahead of the process when you're designing the project, to look into what are the markets for the byproducts and what type of quality or characteristics that are the end users or are the customers for those byproducts asking for.
Yeah, this is a topic that's pretty near and dear to our hearts at Mead Hunt also. So what are you going to do with the solid and liquid digestate? I think is one of the top things that is impacting project siting decisions right now. So where a developer is going to ultimately locate their project, they're evaluating different states or even different locations within a state. What you're going to do with the byproduct is becoming one of the primary deciding factors. I'd mentioned at the beginning, developers looking at how to recalibrate their financial models to the new world of credit prices and incentives. And one of the things that can have a huge impact is if you're able to do nutrient capture on your digestate, especially if you're able to market that as an organic fertilizer product. I think that's a huge part of where the anaerobic digestion industry is going, is making use of that, especially nitrogen in the digestate as an organic fertilizer. What's been the challenge that we see developers running into right now is the nutrient capture technology. It comes with a CapEx expense, and based on the prices you can expect to receive, you can expect good ROI from that. What's difficult is getting long-term contracts for those organic fertilizers, long-term contracts that are bankable to then get the project financing where it needs to be to actually implement them. But there are some companies doing some really cool things right now with nutrient capture and digestate, and so that's something we're helping people incorporate into projects currently, and it's a great topic.
Great, thank you. Alain, Prabhu, do either of you guys want to jump in on that?
I'm not an expert on that.
Yeah,
No,
that's
me
no
neither.
problem. All right, yeah, of course.
Unless-
Take our word for it.
Yeah, unless you need power to power up your equipment, and we don't have anything to add on the end result process. So.
Yeah, of course. So as we kind of get close to the end of the hour, I might ask each of our panelists then, what is your outlook to 2030? How do you see the market progressing over the next 5 years? So Prabhu, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so I think I feel like 2025 is kind of a transition year because a lot has changed in the world, and I think both developers and technology providers, and I think there's a reset in the market. So let's hope that this is indeed the transition year, and 2026 we start seeing progress again. And I think the one area that I did not mention previously is food waste and food waste diversion and all of that. That's an area where it's steady and it's continuing to grow again. So I see traction there. I'm, like I said earlier, I'm quite excited about what is possible in the maritime side and the SAF, because I feel like that providing a different pathway for offtakes will also increase the competitiveness of the different markets. And I think the decisions are next week, so hopefully something positive comes out of that for the industry. And if it does, I feel like the demand will be so high that a lot of us will be very busy for a while. So let's keep our fingers crossed on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Scott, do you want to, what's your
Yes.
short-term outlook?
Well, I think, yeah, I agree that, well, I think it's obvious that 2025, it's kind of a confusing year. So let's see it positively as a transition to something that will be better, because so I think the magical word is hang on there, but no, I agree on also the food waste that's increasing. We're seeing food waste bans in more and more in states. What I'd say also, it's an opportunity. So don't waste a good crisis, and see the opportunities to, well, like John said, capture the nutrients. So there are new technologies there. So there's maybe more interest to dive into those technologies. And also it's easy for us to say with our new high performance digester, but I think any technology that can improve the efficiency of the plants, be it like with ABB on having more efficient motors and processes, but also having more efficient transformation of food stock into gas. Well, that's it's like an obligation to be more efficient, and so at least it's the opportunity to look into all the ways where we can just be better.
Great, thank you. Alain?
Yeah, I think for me, in addition to what Prabhu and Scott stated, we look, I think there's a lot of different avenues that, that the RNG world has to look at, on top of, figuring out what we talked about, policies impact. I think, everyone is settling down now. We'll definitely start to see a growth. We might even see a consolidation of the market, with the operators, depending, because there's been a shift. We didn't talk about that on ESG requirement, right? I think that was one of the Q&A question indirectly asked about that. But, from an ABB standpoint, definitely what we look into that market is, providing, energy efficiency, which has a direct impact on the profitability of the operators, right? Lower energy efficiency. We have, solutions to provide. I think that electrical has always been, kind of the necessary evil to get the plant going. Being in that world now for 3.5 years, I think that there's definitely an opportunity for the industry itself to dive in a little bit more. For us also as a company to do a better job to support the community and making sure that profitability and continued growth, because if they're profitable, then they'll reinvest and continue to grow the marketplace.
Great, thank you. And John?
Yeah, the phrase that comes to mind is creative problem solving. And I think this biogas waste to energy industry has been really good at that for a long time. And we've got maybe a new set of problems to solve for right now. And I see a lot of project developers and owners who are figuring out the way to solve those problems when it comes to making their business case for new projects. And as they're doing that, they're telling us as technology providers and facility integrators what they need. And I know we're responding back by our own creative problem solving. So I don't know, I think the challenges shift over time, and I think it's what we're good at is solving those problems. So lots of optimism.
Great, thank you. Love the optimism. So that concludes our time today. As a reminder, the webinar recording will be shared with participants next week. We'll share any unanswered questions in the Q&A with our presenters and invite them to send a response to the question via the biogas community. We invite everyone to join us on the Biogas Community platform to stay up to date and view content from our USA Focus Month and participate in our upcoming Focus Months. I would like to thank everyone for taking the time to join us today and to thank our presenters again, Prabhu Rao with IB's Adsorption, Scott McKay with Fournier Industries, Alain Leblanc with ABB Group, and Dinneen with Mead Hunt. Thanks, everybody.